Hello, welcome again
A new place, a new home for a while. Let me feel alive.
So today, I
Nothing
wanted
to
to respond to some question that one of our viewers has posed. And the question is about how many publications do you need in order to apply for the global talent? And I thought this is an opportunity to talk about some of the things that you can highlight in your personal statement as you're applying for the global talent visa. So first of all, I have to make it clear that in thinking around publications, it means that you are more likely to be in the line of academic and research. That is the route that you are taking. Remember, I mentioned in the previous interview that the global talent is not just for academic and research, but also for people in technology and innovation. So if your line is academia, is research, and also in academia, then yes, demonstrating that you are actively engaged in research and also you have evidence to demonstrate that this is the output for my research is critical. Why? I mean, just to put it very bluntly, in academia, one of the metrics that is used to judge your productivity is how many publications have you got. Of course, you go beyond that to look at the quality of the publication, where they have been published and all that. But then I must also stress that publication is not the only criteria that you would draw upon, or which I think that the recommending councils will just look at to make a decision that indeed you are a promising talent or an exceptional talent for the global talent visa. I believe a number of variables are also considered. So for example, in my personal statement, I didn't only talk about the fact that I've conducted research. I have got a certain number of publications that are published in very top and highly rated and reputable journals stating some impact factors and things like that. But it is also about positioning myself, what makes me a researcher beyond just publications, and what contribution I bring. So I highlighted the experiences I have in grants application and being able to win grants, mentioning specific grants, how important that grant is, what kind of research the grant is going to support is equally very important. For example, a friend of mine who is into the sciences included in his personal statement about the technology that he pioneered, and this technology came from his PhD, and this technology has been adopted in the industry and it's being used to even explore new areas. He started using it in the area of optics, but then this particular technology has moved to pharmaceuticals, and now it's moving even into the electrical vehicle space, which clearly shows you that this person is indeed a talent, and you can see the significance of the work he has done. So it is not just about the research publication, it's also about the impact of the research. How is industry taking up your research? What is the scale in terms of sectors, for example? Is it just limited to your sector, or there is a potential for your work to generate new ideas, new businesses across multiple sectors? I think that highlighting something like that is very, very essential. I also talked about the fact that I've also had teaching experiences. How many students that, for example, I have tutored, talking about dissertations that I have supervised, including at the master's level, at the undergraduate level. I think these are also very important points to stress in your personal statement. It's not just the research that you have done and have been published. Remember, as an academic, you do a number of things: administration, research, community engagement, all these things come together. And if you have experience in any of these areas that is material, I think nothing stops you from highlighting that in your personal statement. And I think that demonstrating that indeed you have been doing that, and possibly using hyperlinks. Nothing stops you to use hyperlinks to some of these. For example, this very friend of mine talked about how he has set up, he was a founding member of a number of initiative that is intended to produce the next generation of scientists across Africa. how he was able to engage with industry to raise seed capital, the number of interventions and outreaches that he's conducting as a consequence of that, other interventions that other groups or other startups that have emerged that he's a founding member. He highlighted all these things in his statement. So I guess what I'm trying to say in response to your question is that, I mean, don't undersell yourself. Don't think that it is only the academic achievement, it's only the publications that you need to stress in demonstrating that you are indeed a global talent in your personal statement. Anything that researchers, academic teachers do, I mean, you could highlight courses that you have taught, the impact that those courses have had or could potentially have. All these things are relevant to sort of include in your statement, because we are looking at also the potential. We are not just looking at your past achievements. We are looking about the potential, thinking about maybe seeing a new course or a new area that might be interesting to maybe students, if you get opportunity to maybe, or even for research and other things. So you are looking back, but then you're also looking forward. You are prospecting. You are telling the committee or the panel who review your work that, look, I have identified these areas, which probably they might not have averted their minds to or hadn't become so obvious to academia or to industry. But your work and what you bring on board is highlighting or is signaling that these things could potentially be something big in the UK. And always try and emphasize how it will be beneficial to this particular country. Don't be vague about it. Is it a specific industry? Is it going to contribute to, let's say, how many homes? I'm a researcher researching on housing. How is it going to tackle the problem of the housing crisis, which is partly reflected in houses not being affordable to the vast majority of people, the fact that there is a growing number of homelessness, the fact that people have issues about smart cities, how can we trust issues around data governance? Is there something we are doing to be able to show that this particular work that I've done goes to the core of tackling this problem in this particular country? And I see the scale of it, not just even limited to my work as an academic, but then seeing this benefit replicated or spilling over to other sectors. I think that it is extremely important to highlight these things. So I hope that in this very short video, I've tried to answer your question. I think the takeaway is, don't undersell yourself. What makes you a talent? It's not just the publications. Very good academics don't have publications, but that doesn't mean that because they don't have enough publications, they are not global talent or they won't meet the eligibility criteria. I think that you need to be able to stress and emphasize all the other areas that you are doing fantastic, or all the other areas you are doing an amazing job in terms of what brings together everything that makes you a global talent. I think you should highlight that in your personal statement. Use hyperlinks. I mean, anything that will provide evidence. If there's evidence, if something that is published is on the internet, reference that. Use hyperlinks in your personal statement so that when the committee meets and you are talking about, you have led an outreach, you are a founding member of something, your work has been adopted elsewhere. If there's evidence to that, refer to that, cite that in your personal statement. And I think that bringing all these things together, they'll be able to see that, look, that they stand a lot to gain. The country stands to benefit a lot if they give you the opportunity to stay in this country, to continue to do your research and all the other fascinating things that you bring on board. So I think there was also a question about what is the justification for encouraging someone to go for the global talent, which I think I had previously touched on that in a last video I did, where I talked about the difference between the workers visa, which is the tier 2 visa, the global talent visa, and how you can transition from a global talent visa to a settled person or an indefinite leave to remain holder. But I can reiterate that in this video very briefly to say that I think one of the good things with the global talent visa is the fact that if you can demonstrate that you are indeed a promising talent, or you are an exceptional talent, the pathway, how long it will take you to get your indefinite leave to remain, has become significantly shorter. And I mentioned the fact that if you have never lived in this country and you're coming in as a researcher and you're offered the opportunity between the skilled worker visa and the global talent visa, then in thinking about your pathway to getting indefinite leave to remain, it is advantageous to go for the global talent visa, because the minimum you can spend from 3, if you've been on it for maximum of 3 years, you are technically eligible to apply for the indefinite leave to remain. And on the global talent visa, as I said, you are not tied to your employer, so you have flexibility to do things that you enjoy. I mean, if you're a researcher, I suppose you'll be doing things that are related to research or whatever you do, which doesn't necessarily fall outside of your scope. I mean, because that is why you are the talent. So your talent relates to the kind of things that you do. So that flexibility is quite useful, and I think that it clearly sets the global talent apart from the skilled worker visa, given the fact that you don't need to be tied to any employer, and the pathway to the indefinite leave to remain is much shorter than going with a skilled worker visa. So that's what I can say in response to your question about justification. I hope I answered your question. Thank you very much. If you are new to this channel, if you find the content useful, just hit the like button. You can decide to subscribe. We'll very much be appreciative of that. And until next, thank you so much for stopping by our channel.